Hey everybody, I'm back as promised with hive number 21 in the background here. You can see this row of hives I have here. Sun is, there's not a cloud in the sky, so sorry about the lighting on this video. Today I want to show you the inside of hive number 21. It's a nice calm day, sunny. It's not too warm, probably about 62 degrees right now. But I want to show you the inside of the hive and talk a little bit about feed. I've had some questions on feeding. Sugar syrup in particular, and want to talk to you a little bit about that. But the main thing is I want to show you the inside of the hive. I'll give you a picture of the queen, show the size of the cluster, and that'll give us a base point to kind of go from here on out. Now, it's been, I think it was October 29th that I shot the last video. It's November 8th, it's election day. Since October 29th, I have brought this hive three quarts of syrup, and they should have taken all three of those right now. I did a spot check on the hive just on the weight and could tell a significant difference when I put that last quart of syrup on. Now I want to keep giving them, you know, they had hardly anything in there, so I want to keep giving them a lot of syrup. But before we get into the hive, let me just talk a little bit about feeding. I have a video on feeding. You can watch that. Hopefully that'll answer most of your questions along with this. Now, feeding sugar syrup. A lot of people are under the impression that sugar syrup freezes. Now, I don't know what the freeze point is. If I look it up, I'll put it down below. But the freeze point of sugar syrup is a lot colder than it is water. It's a lot colder than 32 degrees. So, it doesn't freeze as quickly as most people think. And as far as freezing goes in the first place, it depends on how you feed your bees. So if you feed with a Boardman feeder, which is exterior to the hive, it's a mason jar type thing that fits into the front entrance there, that's exposed to the elements and it'll freeze a lot quicker. If it's an in-frame, like a frame replacement type feeder or a hive top feeder, those won't freeze as quickly because they're inside the hive, away from the elements, but the bees cannot cluster under them either. So they will still freeze sooner than the method that I'm showing you here. Another factor that inhibits freezing is that the advantage to feeding bees sugar syrup with a can on top of the bee escape hole, it's fairly small volume. So what it amounts to is that bees can cluster right underneath that can. And when they do, the heat from their bodies goes up and warms that can. So if it's a metal can, it'll warm faster than if it's a glass or a plastic can. The second thing is that the more volume you add, so you have a gallon metal can, that's going to take more energy from the bees to keep it below freezing. Now in my climate, we can get down, we can get down to 27 below zero Fahrenheit. I'd say on average though, our coldest temperatures around the year are going to be 5 to 10 degrees below zero. I've never actually had a can freeze on me. Now, when it's 10 degrees below zero, I don't come replace cans either. But you know, it doesn't take bees a long time, probably 2 days, to get a quart of syrup out and put it in their comb where they can use it. It doesn't take that long. So if you're worried about the syrup freezing, it's almost a non-issue in a metal can that's quart size. If you're not going to be around for a while and you want to make sure they have honey and you put it in a gallon can, I would suggest you use a metal. Can. And the reason is because it will conduct heat better from the bees, keep the syrup warmer, and keep it flowing. So I feed bees all winter long if need be. That's pretty much it about feeders. I would recommend my method. I've used all those other methods before, and they're just not worth it to me. It's an extra investment in a lot of ways, and then in this, you can go down and get a quart can for free. So, all right, so let me go light my smoker. We'll take a look inside the hive, and you'll see where they're depositing the syrup. You'll see if the cluster's grown in size. It probably hasn't. Like I said, it's going to take about a month or so before we actually start seeing an increase in the number of bees. Pollen patties too, by the way, are made with sugar syrup, and they stay pretty pliable. We'll see if they've done anything with that pollen patty, and we'll see if they haven't. So let's delve into that hive. I think some people are wondering why I am forcing the bees to come out this front entrance here. And the reason is pretty simple. It's not that I mind them working out back here. By the way, I forgot to close that entrance off until today. But the reason I'm doing that is because it hasn't gotten any worse over the last month or so, but you can see that there was some robbing here. And I want to force the bees to use this front entrance to guard that front entrance. So in a couple weeks, I can take that screen off and the bees will just continue using the front entrance. It was just that they got in the habit of using the back entrance. So what I wanted to show you was that the bees are now starting to come out and guard in the front door here. And a few minutes ago, they were actually scenting. And the reason is because even though the bees, I screen them off, you want to screen them off in the middle of the night or early morning before they actually get out of the hive. And the reason is because if you don't, foragers that come in from the field during the day will come back to find a screened hole, entrance exit hole, and it takes them a lot longer to come around and find the front door. But you can see that they're walking around now. They're kind of guarding this area. Earlier I saw them scenting a little bit. I'll try to catch that on video. But it wasn't until today that I remembered to screen that rear entrance. And you can see what's happening is even though they flew out that front entrance, a lot of bees are still trying to come and go from this rear entrance. Try to brighten that up for you. They're still trying to come and go from that rear entrance, but eventually they'll find that they can't get in and out of there, and they'll go around to the front where they came out of. But this is like a one-day thing. Tomorrow they'll be fine, and it would be even worse if you screened them like in the middle of the day. So you got to come out at night when everybody's in the hive, screen them, and then let them learn the next day. And even so, there's still only 6-7 bees flying around trying to get in through that hole. There's a few trying to get out. I don't know if you can tell or not, but the big thing is that I wanted to show you that they will all of a sudden just start using the front entrance. So hopefully you can see there's bees actually crawling all the way through this. So they haven't used a whole lot of it, but they are using it. And peeling away the paper is something you can do. It's not that big of a deal, but you can see that they're using it. You can even see little bits of it here and there. But let's get it out of the way. So there's the size of the cluster. Now most of the bees up here are here because I had the pollen patty here, but you can actually see bees down on these frames. But you can see bees on these 4 frames, this one less so. So the queen's going to be on one of these 2 frames. We already know that. And that means that she won't have any more than 2 frames of brood. But with that size of a cluster, last night I got down to 27 degrees. So with that size of a cluster, you're going to see less than a frame of brood. They need more bees, basically. A little history on this hive. A little bit of bees there. There's nothing in this frame. The queen was started this year. I gave you some history of the hive earlier in the year, but the queen itself was a purchase queen that I started a nuke with. She's a Caucasian, and she's actually a Caucasian and a Carniolan hybrid. I'll get you some close-ups too, so you can see her offspring is very, very dark for the most part. Again, I did unite this with another hive, so you might see some oranger bees in here. Here, this is full of syrup. Syrup and honey. So the queen will be on this frame. One thing that bees using the rear entrance cause is this thing around here where it's kind of hard for you to kind of move them out of the way to grab the frame. That's usually not something I care, a whole lot about one way or the other. It's not that big of a deal. I just want them to guard their hive. Okay, and here's the queen, and with a little patch of brood on there. So let me get you some shots of the queen. There's just a little tiny patch of brood, which means they're not going to expand by much if they were to. But there is capped brood there. Okay, hopefully this is in focus for you. I took a few snapshots, but there's the queen walking around. And the bees are clustered pretty tight on this frame, so it might be hard for you to see the brood. So I will kind of blow on them a little bit and get them to move around a little bit. So the brood pattern goes all the way up from basically almost the top of the frame all the way down. There's some honey on the right here, right there. But everything left of that is capped brood. So the patch actually is about the size of a grapefruit. And you can see that I actually disturbed them a little bit, but the queen is doing what she's supposed to be doing. She's just kind of walking around checking cells, see if she can lay eggs in there. And they've now got resources with which to lay brood. They just don't have resources in the form of worker bees to cover that much brood. And that's about a third of a frame is what it is. But you can see honey all around it. And that's why they're keeping the brood right around their honey stores for a reason. So you can see a little bit of jostling around. So I'm going to go ahead and put the camera back and we'll keep going. Got the camera back where you can see kind of what I'm doing. I have the queen right here. I doubt that you can see her from there, but she's right there. She's marked white from 2016. I want to protect that queen. So what I want to do is I want to set this frame in when she's in the middle of the comb with nothing, shooting out or anything against the frame that she was in. And I do that by kind of getting it down in place and then kind of moving it closer slowly. Okay, now I know that the queen is between these two frames. You want to keep your frames together when you work a hive. You don't want to have a whole bunch of frames, apart from each other, because there's just more chance that you're going to smash the one bee that you don't want to smash in there. We'll check this frame real quick and make sure there's no brood on it. I don't think there is. There is a pollen carrier on it, which sometimes means that there's brood on it. And there's not. So this is all honey syrup honey syrup. This is all sugar syrup and a little bit of leftover honey from earlier in the season, actual honey. So now we know that the queen's on this frame. I'll mark it here. Especially in the winter, that's useful because next time you can come back and you can check. What you want to make sure is that the brood size is bigger, or if it's smaller or whatever. They're naturally going to instinctually kind of shut down brood rearing this time of year. But since they're so weak, sometimes by giving them a pollen patty and some sugar syrup, you can entice them a little more. And this is one of the reasons why, you get it close here. Now, another thing I wanted to kind of show you in this video is that it's not a problem so much here, but when you have when you're trying to close frames together, that there's bees on the end bars where you can smash them. All you need to do is shove a little bit of smoke right there. They'll move right out of the way. Just keep looking down there and then move her over. That's one of the ways to close up those frames. So in this case, the bees are almost all congregated over it in that area. So from here on out, it's fairly easy to move them back into place. But on a full size, extremely strong hive, you may have to do the same procedure again. And by that I mean smoking. In fact, I got to do it actually. So you keep from smoking or smashing bees. Just give them a little smoke. They'll move down and kind of out of the way, and then just kind of give them a little nudge. Close it up. And then just replace your frames back where they were. So we know we have a queen. We know we've got capped brood. I saw some larvae and some eggs, not very much, but they were in there. You could see the queen was in the midst of laying anyway, looking for a place to lay her eggs. Make sure when you close up your hive that you compress all these frames together. They're built to be compressed together like that. This is the perfect bee space where they won't build a lot of this comb. You can see how clean the hive is. This is the only area right here where they've built up some comb. Sometimes they'll do that right underneath where you're leaving your can. Try to clean off that wax. Don't just throw this on the ground, it'll attract wax moth. You can see how pliable this is still. Replace your pollen patty. They will, by the way, move out of the way once you set this on the ground on the hive. Just set it down gently so that they can do that without getting smashed. And then we got the screen on here. I'm going to move it just a little bit because it's actually not quite on. Bees can't get through it, but like I said, in a week or two, not even that long, really 3-4 days, I could probably take that screen off. Got a brand new can of syrup here. Put on them. In this case, the holes are a little plugged, so you can use darn near anything. Just open up those holes. Looking good there. Make sure that there's no gap in here, no bees in here. Because in my case, I know certain hive equipment is constructed different, especially in different countries. But in this case, I'm going to completely seal off this area. So you don't want bees trapped in there. One of them just flew in there. And there you have it. Now, tilt test on this. Yeah, it's got a little bit of weight to it now. Like I say, that's the fourth. This will be, after this is taken in, it'll be a gallon. Okay, so there you have it. We're, 8-9 days in, something like that. Well, I guess it'd be 11-12 days in, probably. They've taken in three quarts of syrup. They're on their fourth now. By the time I get to this, the next video next week, I'll put at least two and probably 3 more quarts on there. The key is that you want to give them plenty of syrup, but you don't want to overload them so much that they're limiting the space that the queen has to lay brood in. One quick fix in a situation like this, you saw that there was honey all the way around basically the brood. There were still empty cells, but for the most part it was all the way around. There was brood on only one side of the comb. And if I wanted to, one thing that I could do is take one of those empty frames on the outside and I could move it right next to that frame with the brood on it. I could do that, and the queen would I'll probably do that next week, but the queen would probably start laying on both of those facing sides of comb there. Because they can cover that area, they're going to do it anyway, so, and they usually will. So next week we'll do that. We'll move that frame closer. We'll get them some more syrup in there first, and then we'll give her some room to lay, and we'll see how this progresses. So I hope you're enjoying these videos. I'm going to try to give you, little pearls here and there on every video, give you something to watch the videos for. But I hope you're enjoying this kind of episodic, follow through this hive. I hope it makes it. There's absolutely no guarantee that they will. I've never had one of these queens before. And it's a Caucasian, by the way, it's a Caucasian Carniolan hybrid. But what they're trying to do is backbreed Caucasian bees. So I think next year they're going to be over 90% Caucasian. Right now I think they're 60-some%. And so next year I'll get some more, but they'll be over 90% Caucasian then. And what they're doing is they're bringing in frozen drone sperm from the Caucasus Mountains, and they're using that to backbreed from a Carniolan queen. They're using it to backbreed to a Caucasian. So And the reason is to treat varroa mites. So we'll see how they work out too. And then in the future, watch for a video on Caucasians, Carniolans, Italians, different types of bees. But I hope you're enjoying this. You can see that they're guarding right there. They're checking one bee out, a robber apparently. So sometimes when you get a weak hive like this and you open them up, it attracts robbers right then and there. That robber might have come out through the front, but it's a good sign to see that they're guarding now. They're guarding the front entrance. That's what I want. So we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. Give me some comments on what you think of these episodes, if they're worthwhile or not. And we'll see you next week.